So please join me in giving a warm welcome to Aidan Loughnane.
Good evening. Some of you might know who I am. Majority of you will not. And that is okay. Because who I am is not important. But I know in my heart that my message is. I'm a lot of things. I'm a barber by trade, I'm a son, I'm a husband. In maybe 3 or 4 weeks, I'm going to be a dad. And I'm excited for that. But to date, the proudest thing I can say that I am is that I am someone who openly struggles with their mental health. And the reason I'm so proud is because it took me a lifetime to have the courage to finally say that. And it is with my faith that I stand here today with that courage. I'm not new to fate. Like majority of us here, my mother dragged me through the doors of the church every week in Thurles. All the way from baptism, communion, confirmation, and then at the age of 16, we're finally set free. And I'm thankful she did that, because it is those steps that put me here in front of everyone today. Mental health is something that I'm so passionate about, because for the longest time in my life, and still to this day, mental health affects me. I was a sensitive child. I suffered awful with this idea of separation from my parents when they dropped me to school. I remember chasing after my dad, afraid that he wasn't going to come back. And sadly and unknowingly why, I had this deep fear of death from a young age. I was different. But I was a happy child, you know. 17 years old was the day everything changed for me. And honestly, it's never been the same since. Anyone that has suffered with panic attacks and anxiety knows how debilitating and how life-changing they can be. They affect your day-to-day life, your dreams, your goals, where you want to go and who you want to be. I went to a friend's birthday, his 18th birthday. I'll never forget. I walked through the doors of the pub and I was ready to have a good night. I wasn't drinking at the time. I sat down in the corner of the pub and all of a sudden I got this feeling. This overwhelming feeling in my chest, my heart elevated, my hands grew cold, sweat on my forehead. My initial thought was somebody had drugged me. And all of a sudden I remembered I didn't drink anything yet, so how could someone have drugged me? And then I thought, I'm having a heart attack. I thought to myself, I'm about to die. So I got up and I fled from this pub across the street to a local store. I got a bottle of water and I sat down. I remember 2 or 3 people came over to me vaguely. I was in such a state of fear and dread of what was happening to me. I was just drinking the water and I ran home. I went through my front door and my mother looked at me. Home already? I just ran upstairs. I couldn't speak, I couldn't think. She came up to my room and I was sitting on the edge of my bed. I was crying, and I'm not ashamed to say it now, but at the time I was, you know. Anyone who lives in a small town knows these type of lads that I will describe, and I was one of them, you know. I had the matching tracksuit, the white socks, the tight skin haircut. I was one of the boys, you know. And it was tough to admit that I was afraid, and my mum sat me on the side of my bed, and I asked her to sit on my bed until I fell asleep. And for the first time in my life, I felt like that little boy again, that scared little boy. At 17 years old, I thought I was the big man. I thought I had it all figured out. That day changed my life forever. Panic attacks have stayed with me since. Now, they happened every day, multiple times a day. I've worked to get to this position where I am now. I never dreamt I would have the courage or the ability to stand here like I do. So no, there is hope, but my anxiety and depression, it stemmed through my life. After 17, I developed this eating disorder. I became bulimic. I really wanted to go to college. I really wanted to go to art college. That was my dream, was to be an artist. And panic attacks ripped that dream away from me. My mum supported me as best she could. My first day at college, I'll never forget it. I went down on the train and I might have lasted an hour, and out of pure fear, I had to leave. I ran to the train station, had a panic attack and got home. My mum even took the steps to drop me down to college every day. That's how much she had my back. She pushed me, but she nurtured and comforted me the same way. But I couldn't do it. I didn't have the strength. But I had to do something. So I started working in a local shop, Dunn Stores. We all know what Dunn Stores is. And every day I got up, I just felt like the confidence was being knocked out of me. Like, no matter how much I tried, this thing, I couldn't win. And one morning, I went to work, maybe 10 o'clock. I turned around to my boss and I said, "Can I go home?" She looked at me and said, "Can you not stay on for maybe another hour?" I burst into tears and I ran as fast as I could out of the store. I walked along the riverside where I live and I just cried. I cried and cried my eyes out. I knew when I was going home I was going to take my own life. I knew that this was it for me, and I never wanted to die. See, I feared death. The idea of death haunted me. But I just couldn't go on living like this. This pain and this uncertainty. I passed my local cathedral, and it wasn't some divine intervention. I wasn't worth that. I was just so embarrassed that one of my friends would see me crying that I ran into this church. I was reared in the church, so this was nothing new to me. I walked up centre aisle, right under the crucifixion. I kneeled down and I said, "If you're real, give me something. Give me something or I'm done. It's over for me. I said, I know you can't fix everything, but give me strength. Give me some kind of strength to continue to fight this." And I heard this sound. An elderly woman approached me, and I was so embarrassed to be seen crying. I hung my head in shame, my shoulders bouncing in tears. She walked along the aisle to me, she placed her hand on my shoulders. She didn't say a word. She slid a book in front of me. On the cover of that book it said, "Can you help me?" And it was a little prayer book with Jesus Christ's face on the front. I picked the book up and I ran. When I got home, my mother had known the extent. I told her about the story that happened and I gave her the book. I brought this book here today to show you all. The cover is gone. The pages have come loose from the binding, with many a prayer added from a novena and other vigils around the country. This book and a gesture of that woman's faith saved my life. Had my faith put me in that church that day and that woman approached me, I wouldn't be here. And that's why this faith matters to me. Now I wish I could tell you all that everything got better that day. That I walked out, I was fixed, the panic was gone, the anxiety was gone. That wasn't the case. But I moved forward in life and I learned to manage it in a way that, I suppose, less manage and more hide. I became better at hiding my problems and hiding what I was going through. I managed to get to college, again with the greatest of difficulties. And I finally thought, this is it. My life is getting better. I'm moving forward one day at a time. I was at home one Sunday for the weekend from college, and my mum rang me and she said, "Can you come home?" I said, "Okay." I got home and she said, "Danny's gone to the hospital." Danny's my brother. He was 25 years old. Danny suffered a cardiac arrest at 25 years old and died. I was 21. I'll never forget that day. I can still smell the air. I can smell it and I can taste it. Danny's dead. And anyone who has been through grief and has sat with it and has held it, that they've learned what to do with it, may understand what I say. And I know that a lot of you will not. Danny's death was the best and worst thing that ever happened to me. And I know people will say, how was it the best thing that ever happened? You see, in my mind, I had taught myself that my family would be better off if I was dead. That my mother and father would no longer have to worry about me. That everybody would be happier if I was gone. But see, what I seen the day they laid my brother out in our sitting room, my father was hunched over the wall, like a man with flesh being stripped off his back. The sounds this man made and the pain that he went through made me realise something. That if I was to take my life, it would be no different. That this is what it would look like if I had done it. I know people don't like to hear the word suicide because it is scary and it is real, but I will say it because it took suicide off the cards for me. I could no longer kill myself because I seen what happened to my parents after my brother died. The next year was a blur of nights out, alcohol, and trying to fill the hole, I suppose, that was left in me from the pain of my brother's loss. It was my brother's 1 year anniversary mass. It felt like it was a day later. It was so fresh when I entered the door of that church. I'll never forget the pain and how hard it was to sit there again. When the mass was over, I walked into the sacristy office. I had thought about this in my head. I was going to ask my local priest the question that went through my mind every day since my brother died. So I built up the courage and I walked into that office. I knocked on his door. He told me to come in. I sat in front of him and I said, Father, if God is real, then why is my brother dead? Why would this loving God take my brother from us? He looked me dead in the eye. He paused for a moment, what seemed to be a lifetime. And I thought to myself, this is it. This is it. These are the words that are going to take the pain away, that are going to fill this hole, give me the peace that I've lost for the last year and fix everything. I don't know. He looked me straight in the face and said, I don't know. I shook his hand and I left. I remember thinking at the time, he did nothing for me. I learned later in life, and I'll get to this. He gave me one of the greatest gifts ever. I continued on the path I was on, masking my mental health issues, anxiety, depression with alcohol, until one night out, I met the woman that is sitting right there. I was 23 years old when I met my wife, and she was the reason that I wanted to change, that I wanted to be a better man. And so I did. I went to therapy. I started counselling. I started speaking about my issues and what was bothering me, and I never realised that finally opening up would feel so good, that it would liberate me from all this shame and guilt. And as much as this helped, still I was doing things that I wasn't proud of. I was still drinking too much, being unfaithful to the girl that thankfully stuck by me to this day. I wasn't the man I wanted to be because something inside was still missing. And I circled back around to that question. I remember what the priest said to me. I don't know. I remember that day, what stood in front of me, it wasn't a priest who tried to give me all the answers. It was a man. It was a man that done the right thing in my eyes. You see, what I learned about my brother's death was this. At 19 years old, when I was on my knees inside that church, I prayed for strength. I prayed God to give me the strength, to not take away my problems. That day I was going to take my life, to give me the strength. God is not a genie. When we pray for things, we have to be ready for what it takes to receive what we ask for. Losing my brother gave me the strength and the courage to be the man that I am today. Everything I do because I lost him. God put me on my knees. My entire life, I relied on other people to fix me. And what I learned was, to fix myself, God had to put me on my knees. So I had to learn to stand for myself. Something I said to my mother just recently, it took her a bit off guard, and it rolled off my tongue like it meant nothing. And I said, if Danny didn't die that day, inevitably I would have killed myself eventually. It was hard, but it was the truth. Eventually, at some stage, one of us, I believe, was going to die. So how do I now live this life? I've made peace with the loss of my brother, and I ask myself, how do I become the man I want to be? I've always looked to these celebrities, famous people, rock and roll icons that I looked up to my entire life. In my mind, they had everything I wanted. They had the money, they had the lifestyle, the parties, the girls, the cars. But if that was true, then why were all these people still taking their own lives? Why, if they had everything that I thought would bring me happiness, are these people still so unhappy? So who better to look to as a moral compass than Jesus Christ? And I remember one time sitting down and thinking to myself, you're not living the way you know it, that would fill your heart. Father, forgive them, for they do not know what they are doing. But what if we do? Because I did. I would continuously do these bad things. Go drinking on the weekends, talking to other girls, not fulfilling this identity of the man that I knew that I wanted to be, that would bring me peace. And so I leaned into my faith. I found running, exercising, it would take me out of my head and put me into my body. I'm a firm believer that 60 minutes of exercise a day, 60 minutes of reading a day, 60 minutes of gardening a day, of walking a day, whatever it takes to get you out of your mind and into your body. But we must have that moral compass. We must have that North Star that guides us through the darkest days, because all these things, exercise, gardening, reading, you can lose your legs, you can lose your hands, you can lose your sight in the morning. But you must not lose your faith. Right here I have written in front of me, from the heart, what would you say to anybody that's struggling? If you were out there today, and statistically there is many, if you struggle with your mental health, it's going to be a fight. It's going to be a fight. You're going to have to clench your fists, grit your teeth. You're going to have to fight harder than you ever fought in your life, but believe me, you can get through it. At 19 years old, I was dead and I was done. But I stand here today, a husband, a father-to-be, and a proud Catholic man. You're not alone in this world. We're all in this together. Thank you.